Welcome to another episode of Two Crime Besties, everyone. Thanks for joining us today.
Hello, how we going?
I'm not bad. We've had a few technical issues this morning. It's actually the afternoon.
Well, yeah, we feel like we've had a day already.
Yeah. Firstly, my camera didn't work. Then we had some sound issues. Anyway, we're all good now, hopefully. Yeah, onwards and upwards. We were just saying, the tech is great. The apps and stuff that we use to record are fantastic when they work.
I'm calling it actually producer Pete's fault.
Yeah, he's not here.
He's not
today.
here. And if he was here, we wouldn't need him.
Yeah, that's exactly right. But you know what? Pats to us.
Yeah.
We got it figured out.
Yeah. Maybe we don't need him.
We don't need, maybe not. Sorry, Peter.
No, we're not putting that out into the universe.
No,
sorry,
we
Peter.
appreciate all your help. Thank you. Have you had a good week?
Yeah, it's actually, this week's been a little bit lighter, I'm feeling, than I know we talked last week about, just that overwhelm and stuff so much that, I feel like just even getting that out into the universe, I'm actually feeling lighter,
That's
and
great.
moving through the complexities of life that it is. We get there.
Yeah, I've had a really busy week this week. I feel like I said to one of my work friends, she was like, "Oh, what are you doing?" I don't normally work on Wednesdays, and she goes, "Oh, what are you doing tomorrow?" And I said, "I've got so much on, I don't even know if I'm going to be able to do a wee."
Oh God.
I was literally booked from go to woe, and there was not 1 second of my day that was unscheduled from literally school drop off, and then I had a school council meeting that ended at 8:30 that night, and I did not stop the whole day.
Yeah.
And then I was just before you came, actually, I was looking in my calendar for next week because I'm like, I just don't think I can handle another week like we've had.
Yeah.
But it's fine. Next week's actually easy and light on. It just happened to be that all those little extras came in.
Don't say
no,
that.
but these were all pre-planned extras.
Need to be touching wood somewhere that shit's not going to hit the fan.
It had better not hit the fan. I'm just happy with things to plod along as they are. Thanks very much.
Yeah. Oh God, yeah. I mean, I've had a busy week. I've had a 12-hour day, on Wednesday and that sort of stuff. But it's just been a bit less. I don't know. A little bit less.
And I feel like we are now easing into the year more.
I think so. There's a few things that are dropping off in terms of that I've ticked off the to-do list, which is just making life a lot easier.
Yeah.
Including this weekend being my son's birthday party.
Yay.
Sort of, as much as I'm really looking forward to it for him, having that, but it's kind of and then I can take that off my mental load.
Yeah. Once it's over and done with. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
Once you've been through it.
Yeah. It's been a good week and a more relaxing week, but still busy. Yeah.
Very good.
Yes,
Very
but
good.
I'm looking forward to tonight because we're planning stuff for tonight.
Yeah, so we're catching up with we've found ourselves in a very lovely group of mum friends at school, and all of our kids were in prep together a couple of years ago, and you just sort of find your people and you really click, and
same sense of humour.
Yeah, so that's all sort of happened.
And drinking ability.
Yeah. That's by the by. Not really. And so we've actually decided to go to Tassie for a weekend, a long weekend. So we're actually going to get together for a really nice meal, and I'm hoping a few cocktails or something tonight to organise it and book it all, hopefully.
Yes.
Or at least organise it.
Yeah.
So we decided on this because everyone in the group, bar Meg, loves an oyster.
Yeah.
And
I'll
so
take
the
the fact that you're having oysters for the company and the wine.
And the champagne, yeah. Tassie produces some amazing sparkling. That's what I'm looking forward to.
I'm there for that. Yes.
And sparkling wine with oysters, oh my God. Oh, I actually can't wait.
I'm prepared to fully get in there and shuck those oysters for you.
Oh, thanks.
Just to keep the party flowing.
Sweet. I'm going to hold you to that.
Yeah.
I'll announce that to everyone tonight. But guys, Meg has volunteered as tribute to shuck all the oysters.
Just not fucking sitting in one of those booger things in my mouth.
No. You don't know what you're missing out on. Have you ever actually eaten an oyster?
No, I actually hasn't.
See, okay, so how do you know what you're missing out on? It's like
the snot ball in my mouth is what I'm missing.
It's not a snot ball in your mouth. See, get that out of your head. It's like they're deliciously creamy and fresh and they're so good. I just love it with a bit of lemon or just is perfection. But we went to a lunch, I don't know, just before Christmas, was it? And we had them with like this vinaigrette that was just amazing too. So
Yep.
Give them to me however you want. I will, down a few.
Yeah. I know my dad loves them. Like, what is it? Kilpatrick with bacon and stuff? Is that, yeah?
I feel like Kilpatrick, I mean,
It's not the real way to eat them.
No, I just feel like it's too much because that's with Worcester sauce as well.
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
Have you seen those memes, like those videos and stuff going around of people trying to pronounce Worcestershire sauce? Yeah. I think it overpowers the flavour of the oyster. But then I actually went to a restaurant a little while ago and they had, it was like a tasting platter of oysters. So it had like 2 of each, I think it was. And one of them was like an oyster in a Mornay sauce and then it was like, torched on top.
Right.
Oh my God. I'm salivating thinking about it. It was so delicious.
Or
It was
maybe,
so yum.
maybe I'll have to give it a
Just
try.
one.
Yeah.
And then if you don't like it, down a few champagnes and you won't even care
down
anymore.
it with some champagne up there.
It'll be fine.
I'm always in for a bit of a, I'll give it a go.
The girls' weekend, even without the oysters, would be
This is it.
amazing. So I think it's going to be lots and lots of fun.
Debaucherous.
It had better be.
Oh, God.
So that's exciting.
Very
Something to look
exciting.
forward to. And we're going
Yeah.
sort of around your birthday.
Well,
a
no,
bit
I'm
after.
claiming it.
Yeah, I think
it's my
you should.
my birthday weekend
I
away.
think you
That
should.
way I can
Justify.
expense. I
Yep.
can justify whatever everything goes on. It's birthday weekend.
Yeah,
Yeah. And I was
yeah.
going to claim it tonight with everyone and just say, by the way,
Yeah.
we're actually going away for my birthday.
birthday.
It's actually I shouldn't maybe put the word delayed in front of it. I'll just claim it as my 40th.
Yeah, let's do it as your 40th.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's my thing.
Yep.
In my head, whether you guys are there for it or not, in that sense, I am.
Hey guys, we're celebrating Meg's 40th plus a couple. No, I love
Done.
it.
Yep.
It's good. Really
Gosh,
good.
we've got to get planning someone else's 40th too. So, yeah.
Oh, it's just mental block at the minute. Not because I don't want to turn.
No.
but just lots of other
Yeah,
reasons.
trying to just mentally prepare, like plan something.
It's
Yeah.
the expense of it. Like everywhere, the places that I've looked at that I'm like, I think I'd like to have it there.
Yeah.
The minimum spends are astronomical. And then,
Because it used to be pretty much like, you put a bit on the bar and you've got the venue.
yeah, no,
and
it's not like that
No,
anymore. You've got like,
that's
especially if you want it on a Saturday or a Friday night.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah.
we'll figure it out.
Conversations for another time.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
I do have a couple of a shout out for. I'm gonna call it 2 shout outs today. So, our delightful receptionist at work, she is sunshine in a human being. Her name is Joanna. She is so funny and so I just love her. She's the best. The other day I was walking into work and stopped and had a bit of a chat, and she said that her beautician, she got her beautician onto listening to us.
Oh, yeah.
And Joanna had recently had an appointment and they
Yeah.
spent a huge portion of the appointment talking about us. And I was like, oh, that's lovely.
That's really
Thank
lovely.
you so much. And her beautician said that she loves us. So a shout out to Shana, Joanna's beautician. Number 1, you do a
Yeah.
great job with Joanna because she always looks absolutely stunning. But number 2, thank you, Shana.
Love that.
Yeah.
Aw,
Yeah.
we love it too.
I know. Again, we've had so many people, like we had a lot of TikTok comments come through this week. We've had a bit of an explosion, I think, in our Beaumont, content because I'm sure people have seen in the news that sort of resurfaced again. Nothing's really come out yet. So
Not yet,
if there is an update to be had, we will have it. But they're basically excavating the site that they've already excavated a couple of times before they redevelop it.
Yeah, I'm
in the hopes
so
of
glad that they're doing that.
yeah,
And
I
giving
think
that
we
this
said that in
full
our episode,
extent.
didn't we?
Yeah.
Like they need to do this.
Yeah, because there was sort of some they were so long ago now, and trying to like pinpoint the exact point of where these guys were digging that they said they were digging at on the, back when it happened. So, I mean, now that they can just have a free reign of the whole site, I think that that's what it requires.
But it's going to take some time.
Sounds awful, but I really hope they find them because I just for everyone for closure for that. I know that's their parents have gone obviously, but it'd be nice to know what happened to where they ended up. It won't necessarily then give answers as to who, but I mean, pretty clear if it's on his site.
Yeah.
Like, we can't, you can't categorically say
So
it was
this-
him, I guess, but
yeah.
it's a very good indicator as to
I mean,
who
there's
did it.
so much other circumstantial evidence that points towards him anyway.
Harry
So
Phipps,
we're talking about Harry
yeah.
Phipps, yeah. And they're excavating an old site that he owned and operated a factory on.
And they've also linked him in terms of familial context, you know, like that he was like a brother-in-law of a family member, like as well. So he may have also had a little bit of more of an, like they weren't able to do that. I would link him in any way back in the day, but now they have that. It might make it a little bit more, I guess, an indicator of like the children knowing him and therefore feeling comfortable around him. Yeah, just a familiar face that they'd seen around maybe a family function, you know, or something like that. So.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Crazy. We'll watch this space. If there is a proper update to be done, we will obviously do that
for
too.
sure. Yeah.
Fingers crossed.
Yes, definitely. Oh, really?
Yeah. So let's get into today's episode. Today we are covering the Allison Baden-Clay case. This is something that, I mean, it absolutely happened. I would imagine most people who are listening to this podcast would have heard of Alison because this case, you know, her murder happened in 2012. So it wasn't really that long ago.
No.
And I'm sure people have at least heard her name or have some aspect of this case, you know, in their memories somewhere.
Yeah, and even like internationally sort of a little bit because in true crime world, I know when I was searching just for, you know, what other things were out there in terms of the information, there was a lot of like American podcasts that had done stories on this.
An Italian podcast?
One that I clicked on and kind of went, I don't think I should listen to that. I don't think I'll understand what they're saying.
Yeah.
There was quite a few internationally have done this case. So, I mean, we're obviously hoping to bring something a little bit different, I guess, in conversation, how we approach these topics, you know, to that. But definitely it's fairly well spread, One of the
podcasts I listened to in preparing for today, it was an American podcast, and the man said that, you know, he feels like this case is Australia's Scott Peterson case.
Yeah.
And it does bear a lot of resemblances to that, and that is a case that we are going to cover in the future. It's on our list. So,
yes.
Keep that in mind because it is, you know, sort of along a similar vein, unfortunately.
Unfortunately, that's for sure.
Before we get started, I think it's probably worth crediting David Murray.
Yes.
So he authored a book called The Murder of Allison Baden-Clay. The byline of the book is all marriages have their secrets, which, I mean, we all know that to be true, don't we?
Oh, yeah.
You never know what's going on behind closed doors, and that is never more evident than in this case and what has come to light since Allison's death.
Absolutely.
David Murray did an exceptional job in researching and writing this book. I've been listening to it. I haven't quite gotten to the end yet, but I've obviously used other things in terms of research as well. But I mean, the way he writes about this, it elicits a huge amount of sympathy for Alison and the situation that she was in, but it also provides a lot of background and context too, which I found really, really helpful because that was the stuff I actually found lacking in a lot of these podcasts. Yes. So that was kind of a little bit more about the research that I ended up doing. Mm-hmm. So should we get into it?
Let's get into it. I've got lots to chat about.
Yeah. So Alison June Dickey was born on the 1st of July in 1968 in Ipswich. So in Queensland, Australia. She was born to her dad, Jeff, and her mum, Priscilla. Her dad was a firefighter, I think, and did house painting on the side. And her mum was a librarian at their school, at the kids' school. So, you know, really lovely family from everything I've seen. I mean, you can see interviews with them on like YouTube and that kind of thing, and they just seem like really lovely, down-to-earth, genuine people. Mm-hmm. Alison was second born in the family, so she had an elder sister, Vanessa, and a younger brother named Ashley. Very close-knit family, and, you know, they sort of grew up in, I would say, a fairly stereotypical early Australian, in their 60s and 70s, sort of a fairly typical upbringing.
Yeah,
nothing
definitely.
stood out, nothing, they just sort of lived their lives. And I know Alison had an absolute affinity for ballet. Yeah. And at age 10, she auditioned for the Australian Youth Ballet. There were 250 kids who auditioned and only 20 were chosen. She actually didn't quite make it into the top 20. I think she was 21 or 22. Yeah. So they popped her on an alternate list and somebody dropped out, or a couple of people dropped out, and she actually made it onto the team, or I don't even know how you describe that.
Yep. Yep.
She was so dedicated to her ballet. I think I was reading somewhere, or maybe it was part of the audiobook, she would practice for 20 hours a week on top of her schooling.
Jeez.
So I know one of my work colleagues, her daughter does ballet and is really very talented. And one of the ballet schools that she was at, the expectation was that you would do less actual school to attend ballet classes.
Yeah.
But I believe this model was a little bit different, and Alison was still attending a full day of school and then hours and hours of practice after school and on the weekends.
That's dedication, isn't it?
At the age of 10.
Yeah. Yeah.
She must have loved it.
Yeah, well, you have to love it, absolutely. And because she then travelled overseas, she travelled to the UK, with her ballet and things like that. And so she was considered very good. There was a point where she didn't make it to another level. I remember reading about it and her response to it at the time. Outwardly, because she had so much support from her beautiful family, people sort of thought that she took it very well, but apparently inside it really hit her hard, like that she didn't make it. And I can absolutely understand that, but all due credit to her family then in the fact that she had this resilience to be able to carry on, even though that was a real hard hit for her.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, lovely family, way of being brought up in this absolute dedication to something. She was clearly someone who's of a really good standing and really good mind on her shoulders. Yeah.
So I think by the time she finished high school, she wasn't in the ballet company anymore.
Yeah.
And at the end of high school, she decided to apply for a gap year through the Rotary Club, and she was basically put on exchange from what I can gather.
Yeah.
I think she went to Denmark. Is that right?
Oh, gosh, I didn't read about that.
Yeah, so she went there for a year. She met who was a woman who became a really good friend of hers, who she then met up with later on. She'll come back into this story a little bit later on. And she, I don't know, she just had a really great time living it up over in Europe and traveling around. They went to different countries and experienced lots of different things. And I think that really ignited a passion for travel in her.
She loved travel, yeah.
When she returned to Queensland after this gap year, she enrolled in the University of Queensland into an arts degree, majoring in psychology. And she also undertook some Japanese lessons during that time.
She became somewhat fluent in about 5 or 6 languages.
Yes.
She's incredibly...
I actually wrote that down. She became fluent in 5 languages because this astounds me.
Yeah.
And they're all really different.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
It was French and German. Okay, I can sort of see they're similar-ish.
Yeah.
Danish, Swiss German, and Japanese.
Yeah. Japanese just steps out
totally.
entirely. I'm impressed with anyone who can learn additional languages, particularly adults, I think. I mean, I watch children who do it on the daily and it floors me. Kids who can literally talk to another child and, say Mandarin and then turn around to the teacher and say, speak to them in English. It just
and you're
blows
talking
my
about
mind.
little kids.
Little kids, let alone adults. I am floored by the brain of some people who can do that. It really impresses me because your brain isn't wired to do that in adulthood. It's a real different style of being able to learn. Incredible.
Amazing.
Definitely a very intelligent person.
Yes.
Yeah.
She enjoyed Japanese so much and the culture and wanted to sort of immerse herself in it. So she ended up doing a year teaching English in Japan.
Yeah.
And after coming back from that, she was 22 years old and she thought, okay, it's time to really sort of knuckle down now, get myself a real job.
A real job.
And she ended up actually working at a tourist resort on Heron Island, so on the Great Barrier Reef, absolutely stunning part of the world. I actually didn't know exactly where Heron Island was, so I Googled it, and the photos that come up, I'm like, we need to go there. Maybe we should do a girls' trip to Heron Island.
Yeah. Yes, please.
When she was there, she met a scuba diver instructor by the name of Ian Drayton. He was a former Australian Army, I think it was quite high up in the Australian Army, and they fell in love, really, really quickly.
Yep.
I think Alison had a 6-month contract or something to work on the island. And at the end of that, I think she extended it for a couple of months, but then decided, right, no, I want to go back to the mainland and really get my career going.
Yeah.
And settle down a little bit. I mean, she would have only been 23 at the time, but, she was ready for that next sort of step in her life. So Ian actually moved to the mainland with her. So he gave up his, like, imagine being a scuba diver, scuba diving instructor on the Great Barrier Reef. There is no better place in the world.
This is absolutely, yeah. He would have been living life, to what his, career was heading towards, and he decided to give that up to follow Alison, back to follow her dreams. Yeah. So yeah.
I mean, that's love, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
They rented a house in Brisbane, and Alison got a job at Flight Centre as a sales agent originally. So she was booking flights and all of that, and hotels and all of that sort of stuff. We've all been to a travel agent and know what that entails. And Drayton started working as a real estate agent. So, I mean, he didn't really have a lot of training that led to a career outside the army or scuba diving.
Yeah.
So he actually had a friend, I think, who owned a real estate agency and kind of took him on. I think he was actually quite good at it.
He was quite good at it, apparently. And but I think that just says a lot about who he was as a person, in that he was able to adapt, and obviously, like, this wasn't his absolute skill set, but he was able to do it well enough to be able to succeed, and, well enough where they bought their own home very soon after that, and then ended up buying a second property. I mean, between the two of them, they were doing really well.
And to think, I mean, this was in the 90s, early 90s, I think. They bought their first home in 1991. I wrote this down for $95,000.
I was going to say, like, the prices, and not only the fact the prices, but also compared to us in Melbourne, I have to say, Queensland prices are very different with houses. But still, anyone to be able to buy their first home and then buy a second one not long after is very impressive.
At that age, so I think 18 months after they bought the home they were living in, they bought the investment property. Yeah. It shows they really had their head screwed on their shoulders, right? And
setting themselves
up.
They
were really setting themselves up. They obviously had a goal in mind. And anyway, the year that they bought the house together, Ian proposed to Alison on her birthday.
Yeah.
And she accepted the proposal immediately. As we said, they've then bought their second property, which again, I wrote it down because it blows my mind. $80,000 they spent on their second investment property. And you can actually, I saw photos of both homes, which you can find online, and they're beautiful. Like, they're really lovely Queensland-style homes. Yeah, they're beautiful. Oh. Really, really nice. In 1993, this is kind of where things take a little bit of a turn. In 1993, Alison Dickey entered the Miss Australia Award pageant, and it was kind of coming to the end of its life back then because, I guess people's attitudes towards, especially, well, actually, I'm going to say youth and adult pageantry in Australia, like, the attitudes towards it were changing, and we were starting to really shift our views in terms of how we look at women in society and and all of that kind of thing. No shade to anybody who wants to participate in things like that. I just don't know that there was the appetite from an audience perspective necessarily.
Yeah.
Although this was a fundraising endeavour at the end of the day anyway, and I believe that was Alison's motivation to enter. That,
and I think also this thought of, like, she loved being on the stage with her ballet, and it was kind of an entry to that, back into that sort of world of, like, putting herself, she was sort of dipping her toe back in the water in terms of going, I loved that. Like, where can I access that same sort of stage life? And that's what, and so, because there's a part of it which is about, you've got to show a talent. So that's what she had as her talent, was her ballet dancing and things. It was more that idea of being on stage. And actually, I think definitely as well from a fundraising point of view, and that was, definitely a draw card. But it was more about being on the stage again and having that passion of hers met. Yeah.
Well, she won Miss Brisbane in that pageant.
So she clearly, like, had a way about her that, obviously those pageants, there's elements of it that I find a bit, but she had a talent. She had ability to, speak well, and draw people in to be able to win a pageant like that. And not to mention, very attractive woman, I think.
Oh my God, she was so beautiful.
Stunning. Yeah.
So beautiful.
Yeah.
This kind of caused, though, a little bit of a souring to Ian and Alison's relationship. I think he couldn't believe that she would want to be part of it.
I think he found it really ick.
A bit off.
Yeah.
So Alison actually ended up ending the relationship and moving out of the home they shared together.
Yeah.
Alison took one house, Ian took the other, and he decided to go back and work on the barrier reef.
Yeah.
Fair call.
And I think that's where, like, you know, a lot of that relationship breakdown was in that they just had different goals in life. And, you know, and that's, you know, as much as you might be right for each other, you might not be the right time or the right, you know, place kind of thing. And they just couldn't get that to work. So, which is sad.
It is sad. Alison moved on and started dating a few people, and she dated this dentist. Have you read about this?
Yeah.
Oh my God, this makes my blood boil. So he ended up being nicknamed by her friends Dickhead Dan, this dentist. And what a fucking dickhead he was. Actually, you know what, Meg? Piece of shit.
Really? Oh, they've got to rate these pieces of shit, though, I reckon. Like, because I'm tipping we get to a better piece of shit, a bigger piece of shit later.
Oh, way bigger piece of shit. He's a piece of shit on a whole nother level.
Yeah.
But just wait until you hear this.
Maybe we can call him Dickhead Dan level piece of shit.
Yeah.
We'll just, like, from now on, we'll rate it on a Dickhead Dan scale. Like, you know.
Okay. All right. Well, this is a Dickhead Dan, absolute piece of shit, but nowhere near what's to come.
No.
So he offered to take her overseas to Europe for a couple of weeks.
Yes.
And when they go over there, they're standing at a train station, I think it was, about to get on a train to go somewhere internationally. Like, I think it was a train trip to, I don't know, I'm going to say Paris, somewhere.
Yep.
They were going far. And he dumped her at the train station. And then, so this is where her friend that she met in Denmark comes back into it. She called her friend, was like, well, I've just been bloody dumped.
I'm just stuck in Europe on my own.
Yeah, her friend, they met up. And then they saw Dickhead Dan with another woman.
In Prague,
wasn't it? Yes.
It's like walking along the street, literally. How crazy, like, you know, in Europe. I mean, Europe's a bloody big place. Decide to ditch each other and then just randomly see him walking down the street in Prague.
Hand in hand with another woman, like literally days after he dumped Alison. Yeah. What a piece of shit.
What a piece of shit.
Seriously.
Dickhead Dan. Yeah, I love that. That obviously the two, and I love that she could laugh about it, you know, in that moment with her friend and have that. Like, that's, good on her, because that's all it deserves.
Oh, absolutely. And move straight on.
Definitely.
When Alison came back to Brisbane after that, I mean, I guess you'd feel a little scorned or a little something about it, because she actually ended up contacting Ian and they had a little fling for a few weeks, but it never rekindled for good.
Oh, good on her. Go back to, why not? Yeah. I'm all for that.
Bit of comfort. you know what you're going to get.
Yeah.
Alison was really making progress at Flight Centre at this time. Yeah. So she'd actually gone from strength to strength. And obviously her leadership skills and her personality and everything kind of worked together. And she ended up becoming the office manager, I think, originally at their Ipswich branch.
Yep.
And then she got a promotion to the state HR manager. And then I believe after that, the national HR manager for Flight Centre. So Flight Centre, for those of you who aren't Australian, is a really big
chain
travel agencies.
Yeah.
And they're all around Australia. Huge, like everyone just goes.
I don't know if anyone, has anyone not been to Flight Centre at some point? We use them far less these days, like, because everyone can do it themselves on the web. But prior to those days, you went to Flight Centre and booked all your flights and things.
That's it. They always had good deals and kind of knew what you were going to get when you went there.
Absolutely.
So I think that just goes to show how amazing she was and how good she was at what she did, because to be promoted to such a huge role, and she was still pretty young at this point. This was in 1995.
Yeah, no, just clearly impressive and
very.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, in Flight Centre. So once she became the state HR rep, she moved from the branch at Ipswich to their head office in Brisbane in the CBD. And at this office, she met a man by the name of Gerard Baden-Clay. He was employed as a team manager. So this is like going back now to the early days of the internet. No, are we talking sort of like, 1995? And so whoever the heads at Flight Centre were like, right, we are going to capitalise on this internet thing, and we are going to set up a 24-hour call centre.
Yeah.
And people can just ring up anytime. We'll be able to book it online, because you're not having to wait. And I don't even know how you'd book a flight before the internet. Do you know how they used to do it?
God.
There must have been like a system they logged in. I don't even know.
Yeah, it must have been some sort of software like system that they used. Like,
but obviously that had to be done. I don't know if that had to.
I don't even know. How did the world work without internet?
If we're struggling to conceive what that was like. Imagine our children. They'll have but
No.
life without the internet didn't exist.
Yeah, my brain can't even comprehend that.
Yeah. Anyway, for some reason, no. So they've set up this 24-hour call center, and he was employed as the manager.
Yeah. Oh, he was like the night manager. I think, even like, yeah.
So they've met.
Yeah.
And I think Gerard,
he had a girlfriend at the time,
but he fell instantly.
Oh, no, well, they went. He actually set her up on a date with another work colleague of theirs, and they ended up going out on a double date between. So Gerard and his girlfriend, Alison, and this bloke, another bloke from Flight Centre. Never been named or anything, but they've gone out on this double date, and Gerard supposedly was, like, oh, you're a great chick, like meet my mate from work, we'll go out. Apparently, during that dinner, sparks flew between Alison and Gerard. Between the two of them. Okay. Because he was a very charismatic charming man. So from that point, he sort of, broke up with his girlfriend, and the two of them started dating.
So Alison, for a little while, though, was contemplating whether or not to sort of keep going with this relationship with Ian because, after coming back from that ill-fated dickhead Dan trip, and sort of rekindling things a little bit with Ian, but certainly not, they weren't fully committed to one another or anything like that. And in this interim period, she's met Gerard. Yeah. And she was sort of, I guess, seeing both of them for a very short period of time. And she went away on a weekend away with both of them over this period. Mm-hmm. And the first weekend she was away with Gerard, and they were staying at a hotel. She left her clothes on the floor, and she came out of went and had a shower, came out of the shower. Gerard had folded, ironed, and put away her clothes. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And she thought, oh, wow, that's green amazing. I say red. I say red.
For anyone who is thinking this is a green flag, it is not. And that sounds counterintuitive. We talk about mental load and things with women. This is a red flag. This is the beginnings of coercive control.
This is not mental load removal.
No.
This is him controlling everything. Yep. So then Alison's gone away with Ian I think she actually went back to the Barrier Reef to visit him because he was working at a different resort by that stage, and stayed at the hotel that he was working at. Did the same thing, took her clothes off, left them on the floor as a bit of a test to see what would happen.
He do? Yeah.
And she came out of the shower and her clothes were still messy and on the floor. And she said that is what made her decision to break up with Ian and sort of pursue the relationship with Gerard.
Yep. And on paper, I can see where she was thinking. Door moment.
Oh, absolutely.
Absolutely. But now what we know, no.
No.
Nope.
That's a hard fucking no.
Yeah.
You know what? I'm just going to keep going because there are so many red flags that come up across the way. And we are in no way victim blaming here.
Nope.
We totally understand why she did what she did.
I can understand that initial thinking of that. And look, you can justify all the behaviours and things. It's never the victim's fault. Like, in your mind, you think these things are lovely, and that it's called love bombing. You are made to think that it is a technique, unbeknownst probably even to the person perpetrating them. They don't realise they're doing it. That's so innate in them to do that. You think as the victim that you are being treated like a princess and how you should be treated, but it's to lull you into a false sense of security.
Also, like, I've got a friend whose husband is very, I'm going to say like OCD, and I'm not saying that with like he doesn't have an official diagnosis, but he's so neat and tidy. And on the surface, that's amazing. Like, I often say to her, I'm like, oh, you're so lucky, because he'll literally he can't have anything out of place. Everything is white. Like, their house is immaculate all the time. And she said to me, she's like, no.
Comes with a level of stress.
Yeah, it's stressful because she's like, I can't even like cut up something on the kitchen bench, and he's there wiping around me. You know, he can't even stand that.
Yeah.
So, look, I mean, Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's a bit of a different situation.
And not to say that everyone who has OCD is using is like, or even just
no,
someone
no, I
is using
didn't mean
coercive
that at
control.
all.
No.
But I'm
we
just
mean
saying,
that
like,
in
sometimes these things that can be seen as, oh yeah, that's really lovely, aren't always.
no. Yeah, that's
For
true.
different
That's
reasons,
right.
though.
Exactly. Different levels of things for sure. Yeah. Everything's on a spectrum.
That's it.
Yeah. But this was just a little red flag that maybe, unfortunately.
Yeah, exactly. So Gerard Clay was
Yeah.
born in England on the 9th of September in 1970 to parents Nigel and Elaine Clay. He was the eldest, and then he has a younger sister, Olivia, and an even younger brother, Adam. At the age of 2, the family moved to Zimbabwe because Nigel had a government job, and I guess they had to move there for some reason.
Oh, no, well, he was from there originally.
Oh, was he?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So that's where he was brought up.
So did he get reposted down there, or was he posted to the UK maybe when
I think more
when
that
Gerard
way.
was born?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
In 1980, the Clays moved from Zimbabwe due to civil unrest to Australia. Mm-hmm. And they
Putting it
changed.
lightly.
Sorry.
Putting it lightly.
Yeah, well, yeah. They changed their surname to Baden-Clay at that time. Do you want to explain why? This is fun.
Oh, this just is the start of, I think, yeah, we can get into it. So the reason they changed their surname is because they were distantly related to a man by the name of Lord Baden-Powell, who was the guy who started the Scouts. So
Robert Baden-Powell was actually Nigel's grandfather.
Great-grandfather.
No, he was Gerard's great-grandfather.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I thought it was actually
No.
further again.
No.
Oh, God. Okay. Right. Okay. All right. But yeah, to basically partake in the whatever fame might be linked to that name, they consciously decided to change their name from Clay to Baden-Clay.
Okay, so just quickly.
Yeah.
Have you ever done Scouts? Or
No, my
Girl
brother,
Guides or anything
I
like
did.
that?
Oh no, was it Girl Guides? I don't even know what it was that I did.
Okay.
My brother did Scouts very briefly, but my nan was hardcore Scouts.
Okay, so as a hardcore Scouty person, do you think she would have known the name Badon?
She would have known Lord
Okay.
Baden-Powell. I can
Okay.
actually categorically know that for a fact.
Okay, because I'm like, to
But-
me, that name means literally nothing.
No, I would say, but that was because she was actually very highly thought of and very highly ranked or whatever in.
Okay.
And that was in Victoria,
Okay.
And Scouts goes is it all over the world? Yeah,
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I do. I would honestly, and look, and she's a lot older. Like, I mean, my nan's passed away many years ago. Like, so she's similar-ish, almost era to it, like to Lord Baden-Powell. So, I someone I guess today, I don't think you'd even know the name, but I mean, but if you could look at interviews where with the parents, Jeff particularly, and Gerard as well, to be honest, anywhere possible that they could explain the Baden-Clay and Baden-Powell commonality, they would.
Baden-Clay, not Baden-Powell.
Well, I think
They wanted to
Clay
keep
was their
their family
surname,
name,
so I guess
yeah.
they were hanging on. They weren't complete, not a narcissist. But there was enough. To them, that was enough to link them in their minds and to be able to bring that up in conversation at every point.
Yeah, okay. It was a way of introducing it as a conversation starter.
Yeah.
Because to me, Baden-Powell and Baden-Clay are two completely different surnames.
Yeah.
Like, I would never,
Same.
even if I knew that Baden-Powell was a Scout person, I wouldn't then in my mind know someone named Baden-Clay and be like, oh, are you related? Any chance you're related to Scout founder Robert Baden-Powell?
Oh, no, absolutely. But they found a way to bring it up at any possible chance.
Yeah.
Yes. Did Jeff work for the Scouts? Was he?
No, I don't believe so.
Not even to that level.
I think he.
Oh,
I mean,
God,
they
it
were
makes it even
involved
worse.
in the Scouts, but I don't know that he was ever actually financially paid by the Scouts. I think he was a Scout leader.
Is anyone
Well,
paid?
I
So
think-
it's
well,
quite a
eventually-
voluntary based.
Yeah, but eventually Gerard was.
Yeah, briefly, wasn't
Briefly,
he?
yeah.
Because he couldn't succeed at that either.
Yeah, we'll get to that in a
Sorry.
sec. Actually,
It's my disdain for the man coming out too much.
no, please, you're staying away. So Gerard went to school in Toowoomba, so they settled in and around that area, again in Queensland, and he completed a Bachelor of Business at the University of Southern Queensland, I think it was. So not the same university that Alison went to.
No.
He was an Army reservist and he worked as an accountant. So he used his business degree and decided to do accounting, but he decided that wasn't for him. He got a job at Flight Centre to set up the call centre. So we're kind of now at the point where he's meeting Alison. Mm-hmm. So they've been dating. They hadn't actually been dating for all that long when Gerard proposed to Alison. And Alison didn't accept straight away. So we know when she was proposed to by Ian, she said yes immediately. Mm-hmm. But when Gerard proposed to her, she said, give me a week to think about it.
Oh, there's your answer right there.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
Isn't it? Mm. But the fact, okay, I feel like if you're being proposed to, you're kind of being put on the spot. So I get people saying yes in the moment because it's like...
It's exciting. And
it's exciting, and I think but you can also say like yes. There's a bit of pressure.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
But then...
I dare say her saying, can I have a week to think about it, would have blasted his ego a fair bit too.
Absolutely. And I just think for her to have had the balls to say that at that point...
Yep.
That says a lot to me about who she was.
Yeah.
Like, she was very sure of herself, I think.
Yeah.
By the way, I think it's also worth mentioning that up until this point in their relationship, he was love bombing her. Mm-hmm. He was, like, involved in every aspect of her life. He didn't want her to do anything without him. Mm-hmm. And whether or not, I mean, the fact that she said, I need a week to think about it makes me think that was already raising an alarm bell in her head somewhere. You don't say... I need a week to think about it if you're head over heels and there's no alarm bells going off, do you?
No.
So eventually Alison agreed and so they officially became engaged. Now, we need to talk about Gerard's relationship with Mummy and Daddy.
Oh, and you said the words. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm, because apparently that's what he called them. Mummy and Daddy as a grown adult. We've talked about icks on one of, that massively.
Massive ick.
Is a great, huge ick. No freaking way.
My 8-year-old.
Yeah.
When he wants to creep me out, will call me mummy.
I honestly to God, when I first heard this, that's what he called them, I literally was like, in my mind, 7 and up, because that's like how old my youngest is. And I'm like, yeah, he's moving into that next realm of like adulthood that I can't even imagine right now him saying that to me.
Lucas
and other than if it's a bit of a mummy.
Yeah, that is literally when Lucas will do it with me. He'll be like, Mummy, could I have a special treaty?
Yes.
And he's doing it so he looks little and sweet and innocent.
Trying to like, can I get what I want?
And he's 8.
Yeah.
He's not in his mid-20s.
There's nothing cute about that anymore now. Like, because he knows, I mean, my youngest knows that I come back with that one of like before you even finish that sentence, no.
Yeah. Nice try, mate, but you're going to have to try different tact with me, boy.
Absolutely. So, that screams something wrong.
Issues. It's just gross.
Because apparently he also then, everything got put past his parents. Every decision that was made, he would go to his parents on.
So much so that they're engaged, like Alison and Gerard are engaged, and he told his parents about this, and they were like, well, our wedding anniversary in like 9 months' time falls on a Saturday. We think you should get married on our wedding anniversary.
And they did.
Well, they did, but Alison didn't want to.
No, I don't blame her.
She was like, well, no, that's weird. That's odd. Like, we're not doing that. But then Gerard is... Sorry, I keep saying Gerard because it's like the way it's written.
Yeah.
Gerard is... like persistent, and I guess she just thought, oh, fuck it, whatever. We'll just do it that day if it's that important to you.
But she was aware of this quite odd relationship he had with his parents, that he was very much still mummy's boy.
That probably played into her, you're going to have to give me a week.
Yeah. I think that's what, honestly, that's what was kind of playing on her mind, was like, this relationship with his parents is a bit odd. Like, do I really want to be involved in that?
Mm. And his controlling like his brother and sister as well. Like the 5 of them were, like, I say Alison and her family, they were close, but normal.
Yeah, to a normal degree. Yeah, then there's like...
But then there's like this insular...
incestual?
Yeah.
almost?
I mean, I'm not... I don't think we're implying that there was anything sexual going
God,
on
no.
there.
No,
But it was like very insular and like
Yeah.
to the exclusion of everyone else. Like they didn't really let people in. They were very just as a really tight family unit, but dysfunctional.
Oh, yeah.
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 So they got married on Mummy and Daddy's wedding anniversary, and after the wedding, they did a huge amount of travel. So that's something that Alison and Gerard had in common. They loved traveling. They visited Kuala Lumpur, the Maldives, Turkey, Egypt, Spain, like so many more countries as well. And they ended up in England so we're in 1997 now. They sort of, at the end of all of this travel around after their wedding, they ended up in England. And Gerard got a job at Blockbuster as a systems consultant. So this was the first time in their relationship that Gerard actually had a job that paid more and was sort of more senior to that of Alison. She'd given up her job, obviously, at Flight Centre to do all of this travel because I think they were planning on travelling for over 12 months.
Yeah.
And Alison just, over in the UK, just got sort of like an entry-level office job and, I mean, they were doing all right for themselves. They were travelling. It didn't really matter.
Yeah.
He held it over her though that he had this amazing job and she was relying on him for the first time.
One time he could, yeah.
Fucking piece of
What
shit.
A shithead.
They planned to travel to South America after this, and then I think after South America the plan was then to come home to Australia and really start to set up their lives together in Australia. And in order to travel there, they needed to take anti-malarial medication. And there were two options, I believe. There was one that you could take, was it every day for a certain number of weeks before you had to travel, or there was an injection, I think, that you could have just as a once-off. So they opted to do the once-off injection.
Yep.
And the side effects of that for some people were anxiety, depression, hallucinations, and this can actually persist potentially post-medication as well.
Yep.
And unfortunately, Alison fell into that really, really low percentage group of people who have these like horrific side effects.
Yeah.
So she absolutely had all of those things. Apparently her hallucinations were like next level and that then drove the anxiety and it sort of spiraled her into a bit of a depression as well. Apparently these side effects tend to happen when people have a history of mental illness, whether it be diagnosed or not. So
just like amplifies those sorts of things.
Yeah, so whether or not Alison had already experienced some mental ill health prior to this, I'm not sure. That's not documented. Or there's nothing sort of around there to suggest that. But, I mean, the fact that she's had this reaction and that's more commonly seen in people who have a past history of mental illness, possibly that's the case there.
Yeah.
2 weeks. So she became like really withdrawn, didn't have the best time when they were in South America.
Yeah.
Apparently by the time, so they actually then returned to the UK before then coming to Australia. But when she returned to the UK, Gerard took her to the doctor and in the doctor's report, it says that she was basically catatonic. By this point. And he's still schlepping her around South America.
Wouldn't you have stepped in earlier and said, hey, like, this is not okay. Like, let's get you some help here and get you seen by a doctor. Yeah. Like,
so, the doctor in the UK basically said, you just got to wait this out.
Yeah.
And there's not a huge amount that we can do. So Gerard actually ended up taking a job. This is 1998 now. He ended up taking a job with the Scouts in the Swiss Alps.
Yeah.
Doing, I don't really know.
No, I didn't really find much about what he did.
It was like, I don't know if he was like, hey, I'm a Badon something.
I'm sure he brought it up plenty of times.
Scouts. I'm going to do...
So he was... Dob, isn't it? Is that the right one?
Oh, I have no idea.
Oh, okay.
Is it?
I think so.
I know they go like this.
Yeah, dib. No, it's not.
Oh, is it 3? Is it?
Or maybe that's Hunger Games.
We're so all over this.
Oh, totes. Yeah.
I'm not sure if anyone's from the Scouts.
Is it 2 or is it 3 fingers that they do it with? I know that three's Hunger Games. Maybe
I feel like it's 2. I feel like it's 2. Is it? Let us know in the comments, please.
Tell us what we're doing. Yeah.
Yeah. What are we doing? What are we doing?
Dib, dob. I don't know why I remember that.
I didn't even think to look that up actually, but okay. So Alison was doing some admin work with the Scouts while he was doing this on a very part-time basis. So she would have been bored as batshit, I think, because apparently wherever this place was, stunning scenery and all of that, but there wasn't much around.
No.
It's in the Swiss Alps. There's like a little town and there was not much else going on there.
See, again, like, wouldn't you have gone, hey, you're not well, let's get you home to, and back around family and friends, in comfort of familiarity, all those sorts of things to get you better.
Meg, he's a scout. He's a Baden-Clay. Baden something.
He's got to do his stuff. Yeah, he's
All
important.
right, that is really important.
Yeah.
Scouts on a business. Okay? So he actually ended up doing a 9-month stint there. So poor Alison, she's recovering from this horrific state she was in on her own, isolated in the bloody Swiss Alps, which is probably what he wanted, to be honest with you.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm sure.
He wanted, so there was a directorship coming up within the organisation and he applied for that and didn't get it. But his name.
Your name carry you that far?
Well, I think his name carried him at least to the Swiss Alps. In 1999, they moved home and Flight Centre rehired Alison in a heartbeat because, she obviously left on great terms. She was an incredible employee and they just wanted her back.
Yeah.
Gerard applied for an online job with Global Online, which I think was the Flight Centre's answer to like what is now Webjet.
Yeah.
But
I vaguely remember that.
But it wasn't quite ready to launch yet.
Right.
And I think there weren't all that many active internet users and it wasn't getting the usership. And apparently Flight Centre spent millions and millions of dollars on this and then just let it go to the wayside because it just wasn't being used. So Gerard lost his job in that, which everyone who was involved in it wasn't his
it's nothing
fault.
to do with like his ability or whatever. Yeah.
No. I mean, did he do anything to help it? Who knows? In late 2000, Alison fell pregnant with her first child, and Gerard was unemployed at this time because this was around the demise of Global Online.
Yep.
What did he do? Do you remember what he did?
This is when he started up his real estate. He went to got his real estate license.
This is where he decided to set up a stock trading business.
Oh, I didn't know about this.
Oh, yeah, in the shed out the back. So.
Oh, okay.
Oh, this is a good one. First daughter's born during this time.
Yeah.
So Alison's on maternity leave. He would fuck off to the shed and trade stocks all day because it was really important. It was really, really important, okay? So don't forget that.
He's a man, all right.
Their first daughter was born in July of 2001 and Priscilla, Alison's mum, came over, to help her every day or most days. And one day Priscilla was like tidying something up in the kitchen and she noticed a baby monitor, but the receiver in the kitchen.
Yes.
And she was like, said to Alison, what's this about? Like, why is this in here? Oh, it's Gerard's got the other end in the shed. So, if I need him, I can just call out and he'll be there straight away. And Priscilla's like, he can literally hear all of our conversations.
Yes.
That is fucking weird. Yeah. That is like, if Alison needed something, she could walk out to the bloody back and
There's
go and get him.
There's other ulterior motive to that, absolutely.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure. Oh, I just can't even.
Yeah.
Then 9/11 happened and all of the stocks, the stock market went to absolute shit.
Yeah.
And so he basically lost all
I'm
of his
sure it would
money.
have happened for him anyway.
Yeah. But I mean, okay, that's outside of his control, but I don't know how fruitful it was anyway.
No.
I think money at this point for them was a bit of a source of stress.
Yes.
Then, that's the other thing actually. This just popped into my head. When their first baby was less than 6 months old, Gerard went on a holiday overseas with his brother.
What?
Yeah, they just went on a holiday somewhere. Oh. Now, they didn't have, and the money bit is what reminded me because they didn't have much money. Like, he'd already lost all of their money.
Yeah. And she wasn't working, I'm assuming.
She wasn't working. She was still on maternity leave.
Yeah.
And they had a less than 6 month old baby. Oh, my God. Mm-hmm. Who the fuck does he think he is? Apparently, because it was post 9/11, they got a good deal on flights.
Right. Just leave your wife and newborn
at home. Oh, honestly. He just couldn't have given a shit, could he?
No, he was living his life. Everyone had to live around him.
Yep, that's exactly right.
Yeah.
He then, I guess this is when the real estate boom really was at the start.
Yeah.
And I mean, Queensland real estate really went from, as you were saying, it was pretty bargain basement prices. Today,
It's still not. It's still not Sydney, Melbourne.
oh no,
by any means,
but it's still,
Yeah.
it's getting up there.
Yeah.
But there was an absolute real estate boom sort of starting to happen around this time. So
Yeah.
around, I think this is sort of, we're talking 2002 now.
Yeah.
Apparently prices were going up year on year, like 160%, stuff like that. So it's
Alright.
significant
Okay.
in terms of, growth
Yeah.
in the real estate market. So Gerard decided he'd become a real estate agent because what others... Oh, I'm not going to generalise about real estate agents. I was just about to say something really derogatory. Actually, I saw our favourite real estate agent yesterday. Oh, can't
let's have a
even.
conversation.
That's a completely different topic.
Yep.
But, so, okay, certain personalities maybe are more attracted to that. Don't get us wrong. We are sure there are good real estate agents out there. Decent human... What are you looking like that for?
Why did you hear their names?
Look, I can't say, you can't generalize and say all of them are the same, but I think it attracts a certain type of person, that vocation. As do many vocations, they attract a certain type of personality.
Yes.
Is that fair?
Yep.
Okay. Do you have anything further you'd like to add to that?
Probably better not.
Okay.
Because unfortunately, at some point in time, you have to deal with them, probably.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's one of those things,
Yeah.
isn't it?
Yeah.
In 2002, he was hired by an agency, but, this is so good. But he was like, if you hire me, though, you actually got to hire my parents too, because he had...
This was like
his
from to be a
parents-
director of the real estate.
No. This was before that.
Are you kidding?
I'm
I thought
not
that was when he
kidding.
was getting
No.
into... Oh, that's
This
ridiculous.
is at just a generic someone's real estate agency that he worked at. Said they had to employ his parents. Now, the reason his parents needed a job was because they had invested their retirement with him when he was a stock trader,
And
he
lost
basically
it.
lost all their money. God. So then,
So what
he
are they
said-
being employed as? Like agents?
yeah. So basically, it sounds to me like what they did was they basically employed Gerard.
Yeah.
And then he
Like kind of had his team.
kind of had his team.
Right.
And his parents were his team. So his parents
Okay.
would go out, get the leads, and then he'd close the deal because he was such a big man. He'd get it all sorted.
Right. Okay.
He was actually quite successful. Smile me.
Yeah. Yeah. Start with there. Like at that point.
People were charmed by
Yeah.
him because
Yeah.
he was charming.
Yes.
And he then decided, God, he's a piece of shit. He then decided that he would open his own Century 21,
Yeah.
which is a real estate agency franchise. He literally opened it next door to this company that he
Yeah.
had worked for. Now, this company that he had worked for, they taught him everything he knew.
Yeah.
He wasn't a licensed real estate agent before he started working for them. He trained with them. He got all of his licensing and certification while he was with them.
Yeah.
And then he fucking fucked off and opened a business next door.
Yeah.
I read a thing where the guy who employed him there, he basically said, he's like, look, we fully expect people to do that. That's
Yeah.
fine. We understand that that's just part of business. And,
Yeah.
and especially in the real estate business,
It's
a lot of people have
ruthless.
aspirations to go on and start their own businesses, and that's fine.
Yeah.
He's like, what was the kick in the teeth is that he literally opened the business next door.
Yeah. It's just who he was.
He's just an asswipe.
Is. Yeah.
Yeah. The Century 21, I think, was doing all right.
Yeah.
Even right from the get-go, but we are in the middle of a real estate boom, so you would
Yes.
hope that they'd be doing okay.
Yeah.
By this stage, Allison's pregnant with their second baby. She's having some anxiety, some panic attacks, so much so that she'd gone to the GP to seek some assistance with that in terms of medications. She was also seeing a psychologist at the time, so she was doing everything she could to try and help herself. The GP prescribed her Zoloft for her depression, and that was really working for her.
And can we say Gerard at this point had already openly said he didn't think that depression was real.
Yep.
Yeah. He thought that it was all made up and that she just needed to get over it.
Total piece of shit. Yeah, just get over it. Just pull yourself out of it.
Yeah. You just sort your shit out. Yeah.
Well, she would have by this stage now had 2 kids. So their second daughter was
Yeah.
born in December of 2003. She would have been, I bet, doing everything on her own. It would have been like she was a single parent, right? You know, he didn't, I don't know.
She would have been doing all the work
Yeah.
with the children. I am
Yeah.
absolutely sure of that. Yeah. By the time she was pregnant with her third baby, he was having an affair at that point. So he was not engaged in the marriage, you know, at that point. Big time.
And we don't know, it's very, very possible and very likely, although not substantiated, that he probably had affairs before the ones we know about.
Absolutely. I mean,
And I'm sure he did.
yes. Yeah.
Asshole. I mean,
Yeah.
Alison kept a diary, and I remember one of the entries, I think it was around the time of her second daughter's birth, she wrote something about being, and this really got to me because I thought, oh my God, I bet you're not. She's like, I'm just this fat, disgusting, smelly pig. And I was like, oh my God. Who would even, like, he must have said that to her.
This is it. I think a lot of that language is being used by him towards her. I mean, she was writing in her journal things when she didn't know that he was having affairs. She was writing stuff in her journals like if my relationship ends, it will be because Gerard has had enough and doesn't love me anymore, and of all the crap I have dished out to him over the last 13 years. So she was blaming herself entirely for the breakdown of what was going on in her marriage because of like her mental health, which if he had just supported her through those things instead of going off and having affairs, like maybe that would have made a massive difference.
But it's like if he didn't have her at 100%, he just didn't want her.
No, well, she another one she wrote in her journal was, if only I had given more sex and put some more work into our marriage and not just been a mother.
Oh my God. When you have a baby, you literally have zero capacity for anything else.
You lose
if
yourself
if
in
your
that.
significant other
Yeah.
expects intimacy on that level at that stage of your life, that is really fucked up.
Yeah.
You don't have capacity for that.
No. But, I mean, she's the one in the home doing all those things for their children. He's the one going outside of the home, working, etc. in this scenario. That, for her to know what's going on whilst he's out of the household, he knew what she was doing on the day-to-day. She didn't know what he was doing on the day-to-day. He's coming home like going, well, now you need to, fulfill my needs, and you're not. But he didn't understand what was going on for her at all. And
Nor did he give a shit.
No, he didn't. No, he didn't want to know.
He wanted to expand the real estate business, so much so, and by this stage, look, I think his parents had kind of had enough as well. So they bought into the Century 21 franchise when he opened it up.
Yeah.
But by this stage, sort of we're talking, I think, 2006-ish now.
Yeah.
His parents decided, I'm guessing they wanted to retire, so they basically sold their share of the business to 2 other independent parties.
Yeah.
And these new partners, unfortunately for them, didn't do their due diligence and check the finances or do any checks and balances, really.
I think he'd cooked the books a bit anyway.
Did he?
Yeah.
Oh, that doesn't surprise.
No,
No,
no.
he definitely did when they had their meetings once.
Oh, yeah,
once they'd become
but I think
partners.
he'd been doing that already.
Even before. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
And they didn't really check the financial statements or have them properly checked out,
Independently
or
maybe looked
independently
at,
verified or audited or anything like that.
Yeah.
They kind of went in. I mean, he obviously probably charmed them too, and they were like, oh yeah, this guy will be a great person to be in business with.
Yeah.
He became increasingly controlling of finances, not only within the business, but at home as well. So Alison by this stage, didn't have open access to their money. She had to ask him for money for things like groceries or clothes for the girls or whatever. And so, again, we're just escalating this controlling behaviour year on year.
Yeah. And within the real estate company that he was running, that he was basically, from all accounts, he was quite a good agent and good selling agent. And that's what he was good at. But actually running the business, not so great in terms of financially managing it. He was employing people to do things that really he should have been doing to save the company money. Because at the end of the day, what he really liked about this whole thing was that he liked the show of it, and he liked to be part of, like, you know, going off to conferences and having it, oh, yes, I'm the owner of that company, like kind of bullshit, and, you know, flashy. But what actually needed to happen to have that company succeed, that wasn't his concern. Like, so there was a point there where this company was running, but it was on the smell of an oily rag, basically, because there was no one doing the stuff that needed to happen to actually put any money into this company.
Someone was saying that around this time, most real estate agencies were literally rolling in money. They were making insane amounts of money.
Yeah.
Yet
he just wanted to have the notoriety of that, not the actual, like, hard work that it takes to run a business.
Yeah.
Whether it's, you know, a business that is turning over lots of money or a business that's struggling to make money, as an owner of that company, you need to be running every bit of that and being on top of it all, and he was not.
He wasn't across anything. No. In 2008, we actually don't know the exact start of this particular affair that I'm about to introduce to the story. Yeah. But in 2007...
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, 2008, sorry. You're right. It was when it started. The
affair started. In 2007, Gerard hired an assistant at Century 21 by the name of Tony McHugh.
Yeah.
Now, I don't think she was a real estate agent. I think she was literally doing some, like, admin type work within the company. And by August of 2008, their affair started. I think there is a bit of, I don't know, the timeline there's a bit, I've read different things, so, but I think that's generally accepted as when it started.
Right, because she ended her marriage 3 months into their affair.
Yeah.
Her marriage was already on the rocks, and so they sort of started talking about this, but both their marriages were rocky.
Of course they were.
This is what they kind of connected over, that, I think I'm going to end up leaving my partner. Like, it's kind of how they bonded, like, you know.
And then Tony actually did leave her husband.
She had every intent. She was speaking her truth in that, whereas fuckstick Gerard actually was saying that just to lure Tony in. He had no intention of leaving his wife. He had no love for her either, I don't believe, but that was not, you know.
That's not
what the show was that he wanted to have in the background. Yeah. So, from everything I could see of that, she categorically, marriage wasn't working, and ended her marriage 3 months into starting an affair.
With the understanding that Gerard was going to do the same thing.
Because he was saying to her constantly, like, I'm going to leave my wife. I'm going to leave my wife. Yeah, all that sort of stuff.
I think by the end of 2008, people in the office started noticing that there was definitely something going on.
They really didn't hide it well at all. Like, I don't know if they intended to. And for Tony, she wasn't doing anything wrong, but at this point, she'd ended her marriage. She was now seeing another man. It was, I mean, not to say she's not at fault in that she knew Gerard was married.
Yeah.
I think there's some accountability there for sure.
Yeah.
But she wasn't the one sort of stepping out of her marriage at that point.
That's it.
She had done what you should do
in
the marriage if that's not where your love is.
Agreed. Just really quickly, we didn't mention that Alison actually had their third baby in September of 2006. So Gerard's having this affair with Tony while Alison's at home with a 1-year-old, a 3-year-old, and a 5-year-old.
Yeah. And I mean, and from all accounts, she was not the first affair that he had. There were many before, during,
and after. Well, not after. Well, who knows? Prison's a strange place. So in June of 2000.
Oh, good one.
Well, we can only hope. Yeah. Well. June of 2009, Allison had no idea that this affair was taking place, but it had persisted. So starting in 2008, middle of 2008, by middle of 2009, Allison is absolutely noticing that there is something really seriously wrong with their marriage, and she's wanting to fix things. So Allison's seeing a psychologist at this time. She's still actively managing her mental ill health. She's still taking medication, taking the Zoloft. She's still regularly seeing a psychologist and checking in and just making sure everything's, tracking along the way it should be. Yeah. Her psychologist recommended, she's obviously talking to her about all of this stuff and how she's feeling in relation to her relationship with Gerard. And the psychologist actually suggested that they try some marriage counselling. Mm-hmm. How did Gerard feel about that?
Oh, no, it wasn't his thing.
Turns out not his cup of tea. No. Because if you go and see a psychologist or a counsellor,
They might see who you are.
They might. And especially when you're there with your significant other, you can't bullshit. Well, you can bullshit to a certain point.
Although he would have thought he could
Yeah.
bullshit, and he was smarter than everyone, let's be honest.
Just ask him. By April of 2010, so I think he attended a few of these marriage counselling sessions. I know Alison turned up a few times and he wasn't there. He just never showed up, but she still persisted through it and was working on things because, as you were saying before, she thought that the marriage problems were her fault. So she was obviously taking this counselling from the perspective of she needs to improve things and she needs to do better and she was taking all of the ownership, which would have delighted him no end.
Oh, it's exactly what he wanted.
Yeah.
Like, she can feel shit about herself because I've got nothing to feel shit about.
Yeah.
I'm doing my job over here, bringing in the money or whatever.
And not fucking anything
which
that'll
he
move.
wasn't.
No.
Yeah. They,
No,
I
he
mean, they were
wasn't.
living in a fairly affluent part of Brisbane, but they didn't own their house. They were renting. They were like literally the shittest house on the street kind of thing, on the nicest street sort of thing. He purposely put himself in these positions of to look good, but he didn't have really what he was trying to show.
No.
Like, he wanted the beautiful wife on his arm, but she wasn't good enough. Make sure she feels like shit, in private, but on show for everyone else.
Absolutely.
He was a piece of shit.
So by the April of 2010, Alison wrote in her diary that she felt like things were improving because she was making more of an effort. I think, like, in terms of intimacy, she was making more of an effort in that arena, which obviously pleased him. In May of 2010, Gerard and his business partners attended a real estate conference that I believe was interstate.
Yeah.
And the business partners were absolutely gobsmacked when Tony McHugh rocked up. But she actually rocked up on day 2 of the conference.
Yeah.
And on day 1, Gerard had actually had sex with another agent from another agency.
Yeah.
And then Tony gets there and then he's fucking her.
Yeah. Apparently they're like sitting at the same table or something, or within the same room, obviously, with the conference, that this other woman it was very obvious to everyone in the room that they were a thing, that Tony and Gerard were a thing. And so she basically went, okay, and backed off, like, kind of thing.
Because she was like, oh shit, I've fucked a married guy or somebody who's attached.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, that poor woman.
Oh, yeah. Yep. That's not even his wife.
It's not even his wife. But then he it's not like that was the first time he cheated on Tony either.
God, no. No.
In August of 2010, Gerard told Alison he didn't love her anymore and that he wanted to leave her.
Yeah.
And Alison blamed herself for this, which is evident in her diary entries, which we've kind of touched on.
So another thing she wrote in her diary: men need sex and want to win and need to be the centre of attention. Women work the hardest in a relationship, and after they've had kids, get shoved aside.
Oh my God. I've actually written down a couple of quotes as well, different ones though, but just as hard hitting.
Yeah.
I wish we could rewind to before we were married, because that was when he was love bombing her and being lovely to her and doing everything for her. And now it was the absolute complete opposite of that.
Yeah.
She also wrote, I hate it when my weight bulges over my pants.
And you look photos of her. I'm sorry, there is not a skerrick of a bulge.
She actually had a really beautiful figure, like a
for one who's carried 3 children,
but even
done all that. No, like, that's the thing. You wouldn't have even picked that because she was. I mean, she had a ballerina frame. She, that she clearly was able to bounce back very easily from pregnancies. But that's how he made her feel. Yeah. That wasn't how she presented.
So, like, maybe when she sat down, like, a bit of a tummy hang over her jeans or something, like, hello,
fuck
seriously,
off.
fuck off.
Yeah, he can go fuck himself.
So Gerard actually put a dating profile on a website. Now, do you remember his name?
I didn't know about this.
Yes. He called himself. Oh, I didn't write it down.
Not as good as the
I actually
Maria
think
Corp's husband, surely.
Oh no, but he called himself. It was a fairly normal name. I thought I wrote it down, but I don't think I have. I may have later.
Oh no, Overland. Oh, I do know this.
It is Overland. Oh, well done.
No,
you.
so that's a whole persona that he used.
Yes.
In real estate.
Yes.
Oh, God, what did he do with that whole...
Daniel Overland?
Yeah, something like that.
Something like that. But
Yes.
anyway, so he also set up a dating profile in that name.
I do remember reading all about that.
Well
Sorry,
done.
yes.
And on the dating profile, he wrote as like, I think you can put like essentially a tagline.
Yep.
And his tagline was, married but don't want to be.
What? Mm-hmm. Oh, okay, all right. So let me just think. I'm scrolling through these websites and like, oh, he's a nice looking man. Because he wasn't a bad looking bloke. You know, knowing what I know of him, God no. But if I didn't know anything about him, I'd be like, okay, all right. Not bad, you know. Okay, now let's look at his profile. That's going to make you want to fuck him?
Yeah, no. And it wasn't like it was an Ashley Madison, like people seeking out affairs website. It was just like a normal dating website.
God. Who thinks that that's what's going to attract?
That's attractive. But it did because he met people on that site and
Who
had
are these
sex with them.
people?
Yeah. I don't know.
That's just so wrong on so many levels.
Um,
If you don't want to be married, people, don't be married.
yeah.
Like, really? You can't have your cake and eat it too.
Yeah.
If you meet someone who's happy for you to go outside marriage, like in terms of that stuff, whatever.
Oh, but haven't you heard open marriages are out now? Monogamy's back.
So it should be.
Yeah.
Like, but if that's what you choose between consensual people, whatever.
Okay. Yeah.
But to openly, in that sense, put it out there of like, I'm married and she doesn't know anything about this, but I want to meet other people.
Yeah.
That's just rank.
I know.
So unattractive.
Yeah. Oh, yuck. I think around that time when he was setting up the profile as well, Tony had basically said to him, unless you're going to leave Alison, I actually can't be in this anymore.
Yeah.
And they split up.
Yeah.
For 3 months.
Just going back
for
1
3
second.
months.
So who decided that open marriages are out? Who makes that decision?
I was listening to it on, I think it was like on Mamma Mia Out Loud or something.
Okay, right.
And I think the reason they say that is because, you know, like in TV shows and stuff for a while there, for probably years actually now.
Yeah.
It was kind of a bit more accepted that maybe some people engaged in those kinds of things and it was just something we talked about. But now apparently all of that's now moving back to monogamy and
So like
monogamous
media kind of
relationships.
decide
Yeah,
these
yeah,
things.
yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yep.
Just trying to work out what.
Yep, cool.
Yeah, cool. Who do I need to consult?
Yeah. Where am I going with this? So Tony and Gerard rekindled their romance after 3 months apart.
Yeah.
Now, during this time, so I think Alison had found out about the affair,
Yeah.
said Tony needs to fuck right off and leave Century 21, so she did.
Well, it was also the partners were also saying to him, you need to get rid of people who are not, like, you need to fulfill some of these roles rather than paying other people to do these roles.
The partners were like, you cannot be in a relationship with... This is going to end badly.
Yeah, there was 2 parts to it. It was like, you need to do the job yourself that she's doing, and at the same time, you cannot be working here with her, having an affair, and etc. Like, it was all like, this isn't on so many levels not working. You need to fix it. So it was both financial as well as the perceived stuff that was going on.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So Alison ended up coming to work. So by this stage, the partners know that the business is in like pretty dire financial situation.
Yeah.
And they're in, was it the business that was in like $1 million worth of debt, or was that personal debt to Gerard?
Oh, I think it was
both, like a combo of the two.
I think that the only stuff he had
was the business.
Okay.
Okay.
Because they didn't own property or anything.
They didn't.
So they didn't owe a mortgage, but so I dare say it was the business that was leaking the money and but
well, I know he he had borrowed money from like friends and family too to try and keep the business afloat.
Yeah.
He'd actually borrowed some money back again from his parents too, from when they divested their
That's true.
Their shares in the company.
Yeah.
So all right. So now,
can I just clarify?
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
So because at this point, that he brings Alison in as well to work at the company because it's a good way of saving money for the business in that they have her doing some of these roles rather than paying external people. Because it's a bit of a tax write-off, all those sorts of things, stuff like that. But was she also still back? Was she back at Flight Centre at all?
No.
No?
No.
Okay. She didn't go back there after having children?
She didn't, no.
Okay, cool. No worries.
So Alison was doing office duties, like she was really, I mean, she was such a clever woman.
Yep.
She was like trying to get their finances back on track and like get the office processes and procedures all in place. She was doing like everything, honestly.
And I just want to flag this as potential part of motive. for later.
Okay. I'm really curious to see what you have to say about that. Okay,
Yeah.
let's
Yeah, we can park
that
it.
for now.
But I just want to flag that. Yeah.
Okay. So in Alison's mind, Tony and Gerard were no longer seeing one another. Sorry, no, she didn't even know about the affairs at this point, did she?
No, well, so when she did find out, he did call it off with Tony, but it was only very briefly.
Yeah, so it must have been this
because
time
she was then and look, it sounds like Alison became a little bit controlling, but I think rightly so, in that she was like, okay, I'm now aware of this. I think it was a friend told her as well that this affair was going on.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. So she then said she was again back to see a psychologist, wanted to save her marriage, and they put in all these sort of rules, I guess, around. She was able to have access to his phone, to check because he promised her that the affair was over.
It wasn't.
It wasn't. But yeah. So he did sort of call it off briefly. But yeah, so she had access to his phone then and being able to ask him questions each night. They would have 15 minutes where she could ask questions, so that gave her a period of time. It was only brief, 15 minutes to get all that stuff out that she was feeling or ask questions and find out things, about what his day was or whatever, to know what he was up to. But that time then the rest of the day couldn't be her playing all that stuff out through her brain. She could save it all up for those 15 minutes, get it out of her system, so they could move forward as a married couple without that lingering stuff.
Yeah, but
which I don't know if that's a great idea.
Alison, well, look, the psychologist actually says to this day she actually admitted in court she doesn't think that was a good thing for her to have done.
Yeah.
But, I mean, you live and you learn.
Works for different people,
It
I
works
guess,
for some people, doesn't work for others.
Yeah.
But Gerard, and Tony, so Alison would leave the Century 21 at about 2:30, 3 o'clock to go and pick the girls up from school. And then Gerard would go and have a meeting off-site and go and hook up with Tony at that time. Alison was off picking up the kids from school. He's just an asshole.
Gross. But he also set up then, because Alison had access to his phone now and things, he set up a fake email account.
Yep.
So they stopped texting each other. They were emailing each other and using this other email account.
And he would only call Tony from the landline phone at work. He'd never call her from his mobile.
Yeah. So he was still, very deceptive in his actions of keeping this affair going.
You know how you were saying that Alison had the 10 or 15 minutes or whatever it was every night to have a chat with him and ask him any questions about the affair? I actually wrote down a question that she supposedly asked him, which I thought this goes to show her state of mind at the time. She wanted to know every single detail. She wanted to know everything, so much so that one of the questions she asked him, and she'd written this in her diary, was, did you put the seats down when you had sex in the car? That is the level of detail she wanted to know about the affair. Now, I can see, I'm sure some people probably want to know nothing about it and just if they're going to move on, or I don't know. But I think I'd be the same as her. I'd want to know everything.
Well, I think that's really heartbreaking, because what she was basically doing was comparing herself to her and doing the whole because I'd probably do it this way. Does he like it the way she did it instead of how I would do that? That's to the level of, her own way of comprehending all of this and being able to, in her mind, think she's going to fix it. Of I've got to meet those standards. I've got to be what she was. That's what he wanted. I've got to now be what he wants. And that's
you should never have to change yourself to please a man.
No,
ever.
She was enough.
She was more than enough.
Yeah.
Hey everyone, we're just coming in to let you know that we've decided to actually cut this episode into two. I think at the end of our previous episode we were like, we're not going to do our next Allison Baden-Clay, that's not going to be a two-parter.
Short one.
Turns out when we actually recorded this as one block, it was nearly 3 hours long.
Yep.
So we have decided, for the interests of everyone's ears, we're going to cut it in half, and stay tuned next week for part 2.
Yeah, I think we've basically cutting it off here, where we've just discussed all the backstory of Alison, and we're going to kick off next week talking about from when she disappears. Yeah. So we'll come back next week and address all that, the goings on for that.
Yeah.
So that will be a clean cut of between the 2 episodes.
Yep. Thanks, Meg, for finding a good place to stop for today. Thanks to everybody for joining us today.
Absolutely.
Make sure to follow us on all the socials. And if you'd like to buy us a coffee, you can do so at buymeacoffee.com/2crimebesties.
Excellent. See you next week. Stay curious, Crime Besties.
Bye.